Hi everyone, welcome back to Asperger's from the Inside. You're here with Paul. I make weekly videos sharing the human side of autism, so make sure you hit subscribe to get the latest content. So this week's topic is autism and shame. So shame is a really big topic and it has a huge effect on so many areas of our life. Shame is that little voice, that little message that niggles in the back of your mind that says, or sometimes it might be a little bit stronger, that essentially says, I am a mistake. There's something wrong with me. I'm not worthy of the kind of things that every human being is inherently worthy of. Things like love, acceptance, inclusion, belonging, participating in society, just your typical things that every human being has their birthright of being worthy of these things. So the problem with shame is that it gets in the way of so many things. It gets in the way of self-improvement, it gets in the way of relationships. It prevents us from looking at ourselves in an objective way. So some of you will know that I do life coaching, and the format of life coaching is it's very goal oriented. So essentially you pick a goal first, and then the first step after that is you have to look at what's actually going on right now in your life. What's working, what's not working, what do you want to keep doing, what do you want to stop doing? All of those kind of questions that help us take stock of what's going on so that we can make good decisions about how we want to move forward in the future and what we want the future to look like. Shame gets in the way of that entire process because it prevents us from looking honestly at ourselves. Shame says that I can't afford to look at myself. I do not want to know what's in there because I have a really bad feeling that it's not very nice, and I think that's going to be overwhelming, and I'd rather just pretend to not see all of that yuckiness that's inside me that I might wish is not there. On the other hand, the opposite message of shame is to pretend that there's absolutely nothing wrong. How many times have you heard someone say, there's nothing wrong with me? I know this was a key thing that I realized, in my own autism discovery journey, finding out about autism, finding others are on the spectrum, finding a word, finding a label, finding a story that kind of made my life make sense. One of the realizations with that is that there's nothing wrong with me, right? I'm not broken. I'm not a broken neurotypical person. I'm autistic, right? Now, there's a healthy version of that. The healthy version internalizes the message that actually I am worthy, regardless of all of my failures and all of my differences and all of my everything else that's not perfect. I'm still worthy. And the negative version says, there's nothing wrong with me, and that I'm essentially perfect because I don't want to change. And if you are asking me to change, then you are not adequately accepting me for who I am. This often gets in the way of relationships, because when there's someone who wants to get to know me, the shame voice basically says, be very careful. Do not let them get too close. Don't let them see that thing inside you that they will probably reel back in horror once they see. This is why masking can have such a detrimental effect. If I'm so used to projecting a certain image to the world, there's often a lot of shame associated with that, and the belief that if the mask went away, what they would see underneath would suddenly lead to rejection. So when I'm trying to form relationships with people, that shame is going to get in the way and lead me to push them away, lead me to self-isolate because I don't want them to see me. The opposite is also true. What if I desperately want to form a relationship? I want friends, I want a partner, I want a job, I want to interact in society, and because of the shame, I have to insist that that people accept me exactly as I am. And it distorts the message when someone criticizes me, when someone says, you don't return my calls, or you're a bit emotionally distant, or something else like that. Instead of hearing the message, I made a mistake, shame turns that message into I am a mistake. And when I hear criticism from others, instead of taking it on board, because there's probably a significant amount of truth in that criticism, especially if it comes from a person who actually does love me, who does want to form a relationship with me, who is trying their best to accept me, then I should be listening to what they have to say. They probably have a very valid feedback and criticism as to my behavior, and they're probably trying to help me get along with them and help me get along with others. But instead, the shame turns the message from I made a mistake into I am a mistake, and suddenly that person is questioning my validity as a human being, and my reaction is likely to be extremely strong against that, to buckle down and say, I am not going to change that. If you don't like me who I am, well, you can find someone else, because I have to believe this message that I'm worthy. I have to believe this message that I am, lovable as a human being. So if someone is criticizing me, if someone is not fully accepting me exactly as I am, then that means that they must be a danger to me. On the other hand, once I internalize the positive message that I am worthy no matter what, I am loved no matter what, I am accepted no matter what in a particular situation or with a particular person, suddenly that allows me to honestly take stock of what I could probably do with improve, the areas within myself that I could probably improve in. So rather than those areas triggering this shame response and I ignore them completely, suddenly I can say, oh, actually, maybe I wasn't so emotionally available to you in that situation. Maybe I could have made more of an effort to, participate in this thing, or get out of the house more, or whatever it is that this person trying to connect with me is asking me to do. I can look at that in an objective sense and decide, what would I like to do to connect with this other person? I might choose the same thing. I might decide, actually, I'm trying the best that I can in this situation, and I'm not, that it's not me to go to that party. And like, I knew I wanted to leave, I knew I wanted to go home, and so that's why I did, and that was completely fine. But if I'm not able to take on the criticism at all, I'm essentially falling into the Aspie stereotype of being 100% rigid and not open to change at all. And when we are so rigid, it closes the door on relationships. A phrase that I like is, if you're not growing, you're dying. So refusing to change is refusing to grow, and when we stop growing, it starts becoming really unhealthy, and that's partly why we end up often in these situations where it's really hard to make relationships, because this shame trigger that we can be so sensitive to is actually actively pushing people away, actively making it more difficult to let myself be honestly seen. And if I don't let myself be seen, how can I form a genuine relationship? Anyway, so this is a huge topic. I should probably leave it there. But I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I'll see you again next week. Bye.